Okay, let's unpack this. Have you ever heard someone say, or maybe even said yourself, "Ah, I just can't
Oh,
draw"?
all the time.
It feels like it's this magical inborn talent, doesn't it?
Yeah, like you're either born with the drawing gene or, well, you're not.
Right?
But that perspective is incredibly common, and the fascinating source material we've explored for this deep dive really pushes back hard against that idea.
Mm-hmm.
This isn't about being born an artist.
Mm.
It's about drawing as a practice, something accessible, something you do.
Rather than some mystical ability you just have.
Exactly.
Exactly. So our goal here is to take the core insights from these sources and show you why drawing is absolutely within your reach.
Okay.
We're going to look at what tools you genuinely need and prepare for a surprise there.
Right.
How building a simple, sustainable habit is key, and why the sources review it's far more about the process, about learning to see the world,
Learning to see.
than it is about replicating reality perfectly.
And right at the top, the sources make their central premise clear. Forget the need for innate talent, expensive supplies, or the pressure to create photorealistic images.
Okay.
Drawing, as these sources define it, is fundamentally a habit, a language, and a powerful form of thinking.
A form of thinking. Interesting.
Yeah. And the path to progress, they emphasize, is simple. Draw often and critically. Draw without harsh self-judgment.
That last part's key, isn't it?
Absolutely.
So let's just dive straight into that big mental block. The myth of I can't draw.
That's the first thing people say.
Yeah.
And as the sources point out, what they usually mean is, I can't draw realistically.
Right. They see complex portraits or landscapes.
And assume that's the only definition of drawing.
Yeah.
They're comparing their tentative first steps to someone decades into their practice.
But the material we looked at gives such a broader, more liberating view of what drawing actually is. It's not just representation, it's line and movement capturing energy and flow.
Yeah, or color and emotion expressing feeling without words.
And pattern and play, just exploring shapes and ideas purely for the fun of it.
It's also memory and imagination. Think about kids drawing. They grab a crayon and there's this, uninhibited joy.
Totally free.
Right. The sources suggest we can reconnect with that freedom from adult self-criticism.
Mm-hmm.
There's a great line from the material that sticks with you. If you could hold a pencil, you can draw.
It really strips away the excuses.
It does.
And here's something the sources present that might feel a little counterintuitive, but is actually incredibly empowering. Tracing and copying are not just allowed, they're actively beneficial.
This is a key point the sources lean into, directly addressing that common feeling that copying is cheating.
Right, that hang up.
Yeah. But the argument is, look at how we learn anything, music, language, crafts. We start by mimicking others.
It's foundational.
It really is a foundational way to build understanding.
Exactly. Tracing helps build that essential hand-eye coordination, while copying teaches you about structure, form, visual memory. You learn how others construct images.
Right.
The sources say the only time copying becomes an issue is if you try to pass someone else's work off as your own.
Which is different.
Completely different. Not when you're using it as a learning tool for personal growth. It's presented as a totally legitimate starting point.
Okay, so you've hopefully shed the can't draw label and maybe even feel a bit more freedom about tracing.
Hopefully.
Now, practically speaking, how do you actually get started? Let's look at the tools needed, or perhaps more accurately, the lack thereof.
This is where the sources are really refreshing. They emphasize starting with literally what you have.
Right.
A basic pencil and any paper are presented as the most versatile, most accessible starting point imaginable.
And they're absolutely enough. But if you want options, the material mentions things like coloring books.
Oh, yeah.
Which are great for just getting your hand moving within structure.
Here.
Simple step-by-step how to draw books.
Okay.
Markers, colored pencils, pens, whatever you have lying around, basically.
The sources also strongly suggest getting a sketchbook, not for finished art, but specifically as a place to keep everything together.
Right, like a container.
Exactly. It's a physical record of your journey, letting you flip back and see your progress, even when you don't feel like you're improving day to day.
And digital tools are mentioned too, right? Like Procreate or Autodesk Sketchbook.
Yeah, those come up. Even simple MS Paint for just pure digital play.
And they point out that drawing tools can be anything. Eyeliner, highlighters.
Stick in the dirt.
Yeah. And don't underestimate simple tracing paper as a tool to layer over images and just follow the lines.
The big takeaway from the sources on tools is crystal clear. The tools don't make the artist.
Good line.
Your gear doesn't need to be fancy. The early goal is traction, not technique. Just make it easy to start drawing with whatever is closest.
And if you're staring at a blank page, feeling that decision fatigue, what do I even draw?
Ugh, yeah.
The sources suggest structure is incredibly helpful for beginners.
It removes that barrier. Instead of staring into the abyss of infinite possibility, structure gives you a clear starting point.
Yeah, like what kind of structure?
Ideas from the sources include grabbing a coloring book, working through a step-by-step book, or simply tracing an image you like.
Or use prompts. The sources recommend things like draw something round, draw your breakfast, or draw your pet as a superhero. They give your brain a clear direction.
And there's another freeing quote offered. You don't have to be original to be improving.
Ooh, I like that.
The sources suggest that developing your unique style and original ideas happens naturally over time as you practice and explore,
Right.
not because you force it from the very beginning.
Which loops back perfectly to that sketchbook idea.
Yeah.
The sources really highlight its value beyond just storage.
It centralizes everything so you can actually see your progress later. It becomes this safe, non-judgmental space to just experiment
Big mistake.
and make mistakes without worrying about ruining a nice sheet of paper. And it evolves into this incredible visual diary of your thoughts, interests, moods over time.
Whether it's quick doodles, careful copies, sketching from life, or jotting down visual ideas, the sources say it all counts within the sketchbook. And that feeling of cringing at old work.
Oh, yeah.
The material presents that as a powerful indicator. It means you've grown. Your eye has developed.
That's a great reframe.
Isn't it?
The sources frame sketchbooks beautifully. They're about showing up, doing the work, not about showing off finished pieces.
And showing up consistently is how you build the habit. These sources are absolutely firm on this. Progress in drawing isn't about talent. It's about putting in the time.
And time doesn't have to mean hours every day. The sources suggest starting small. 5 minutes daily, maybe?
Or even just once a week, they say. Keep using tracing and copying. They reiterate this isn't a crutch, it's a learning method.
Right.
Experiment with different styles, draw cartoons, logos, try anime, abstract shapes.
Don't feel pressure to erase mistakes. The sources say just draw over them or move on.
Use cheap paper. So there's no fear of wasting good supplies.
Lowering the stakes is critical.
Definitely. And the sources use a wonderful analogy. No one expects their first pancake to be perfect.
Ah, true.
Think of your early drawings as warm-ups, not failures. That mindset shifts the pressure immediately.
Making the habit easy to access is also a key piece of advice. Keep your drawing supplies right where you spend time near your bed, your desk, the couch.
Yeah, make it visible. Pair drawing with something you already do, like watching TV or listening to podcasts or music.
Create a simple ritual around it, maybe a cup of tea, putting on some music, and then opening your sketchbook.
Makes it feel like a comforting, safe activity. The sources even suggest using emotional states as cues. Feeling anxious, curious, bored.
Pick up your pencil.
Exactly.
The sources also suggest there are many different, very approachable paths into this if picking up a pencil cold feels intimidating.
Like,
start with coloring. It builds confidence and hand-eye coordination without requiring you to generate images from scratch.
okay, that feels less scary.
Or draw casually on everyday items, napkins, receipts, the margins of your notebook. Art doesn't need a special canvas. It can be everywhere.
Make it social. Join online drawing challenges, set up drawing sessions with friends, or find communities online, like on Discord.
Or explore other forms of visual expression the sources mention. Designing stickers, making collages, using stamps.
Digital cut and paste, even.
Right. The core message is to find ways to integrate drawing into your life in a way that feels natural and low pressure.
You don't have to do it the right way, whatever that means.
Just find your way.
Yeah.
And this leads into some profound mindset shifts the sources emphasize for anyone starting out. Perhaps the most powerful one is the idea that drawing is noticing.
This flips the script.
Yeah.
Even if your hands aren't yet skilled at rendering what you see, the very act of trying forces your eyes to observe the world in a fundamentally different way. You start seeing shapes, lines, light, shadow, like an artist does.
Let your curiosity be your guide. Draw what you're genuinely interested in, your worn-out sneakers, the view from your window.
That Kirky coffee mug.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Use that sketchbook as a total sandbox, a place to play without judgment, not a portfolio you need to impress anyone with.
And when you look at your work, Try to evaluate it not with harsh criticism, but like a supportive teacher would.
Yeah.
Wow, look at how much more confident your curves are getting.
That's a nice thought.
The sources also normalize frustration. There will be days it feels hard, like you're not improving.
Oh, for sure.
They frame this not as failure, but as friction that builds form.
Friction that builds form.
That resistance you feel is part of the process of getting better, of pushing through challenges that ultimately make your skills stronger. And if you're truly frozen by not knowing where to start, the simplest advice is there. If you're unsure, just start with a circle.
Just a circle.
Then a square. Then a line. That's enough. Just make a mark.
Moving beyond the absolute basics, the sources delve into some deeper, almost philosophical perspectives on the practice of drawing.
They present drawing as a form of meditation. It can pull you out of your head and into the present moment, quieting the mental noise.
Okay.
It can help you process thoughts and feelings visually. You're not just drawing things, you're drawing attention.
Drawing attention.
Sharpening your awareness and ability to see beauty and pattern in everyday existence.
And they suggest experimental techniques as a way to break free from perfectionism or routine. For instance, blind contour drawing.
Where you don't look at the page.
Right. You draw an object without ever looking down at your paper. The sources suggest this forces a pure conduction between eye and hand, bypassing the self-conscious brain.
Whoa. Or using your non-dominant hand. That sounds tricky.
Definitely challenging.
Imposing limits is another fascinating technique mentioned. Try drawing using only one color or only curved lines.
Or only one specific shape. Constraints, paradoxically, can breed incredible creativity by forcing you to think differently.
That makes sense. You have to find new solutions.
The sources also touch on the rewards and loopbacks in a drawing practice, revisiting old sketches and redrawing the same thing.
To see the progress.
Exactly. It can be incredibly rewarding for seeing how far you've come, turning random doodles into characters or mini-comics.
Pairing drawing with journaling as a form of visual reflection.
Using art for emotional release, sketching a feeling, a memory, a difficult day. The sources explicitly mention using it as a form of personal therapy.
And crucially, they suggest keeping some of your work completely private, just for yourself, separate from any external validation.
That's important too. It's not all for Instagram.
Right. Finally, the sources wisely point out some common traps that new drawers often fall into.
Okay, what should we watch out for?
Don't compare your raw, early efforts to the polished work of professionals who've been drawing for years or decades.
Easier said than done, but yeah.
Everyone starts messy.
Yeah.
Avoid the trap of thinking you need to buy fancy supplies before you can start drawing.
The gear acquisition syndrome.
Exactly. That's just procrastination disguised as preparation.
And don't interpret moments of boredom or feeling stuck as failure.
Okay.
The sources suggest boredom might actually be a signal that you're ready to evolve your practice, try a new technique, or seek out new inspiration.
So boredom isn't necessarily bad.
Not necessarily failure, no.
Ultimately, the sources frame drawing like brushing your teeth or going for a walk, a consistent habit for well-being and growth.
Not a test.
Not a test you pass or fail. And they offer a really powerful summary that encapsulates everything we've discussed. You don't draw because you're good. You draw to become someone who notices, reflects, and expresses.
That line really lands, doesn't it? This deep dive into the sources makes it clear that drawing isn't about being the most talented artist you know.
Not at all.
It's about cultivating observation, finding a unique form of expression, becoming someone who truly notices the world around them, and engaging in a practice of continuous personal growth. It's about the act of getting better, page by page, not proving you were already good when you started.
Whether you find joy in carefully coloring inside the lines of a beautiful book, or you're just scribbling furiously on a napkin to process a thought, you are engaging your brain and your hands in a powerful, fundamental human activity.
So go ahead, pick up whatever is nearest. Maybe it's a marker and a receipt, a coloring book and crayons.
A cheap notebook and a pencil.
Trace a photograph, doodle that coffee cup on your desk, or just fill a page with circles. Just start making marks.
And remember the final thought from the sources for you to carry forward. You don't draw because you're good at it.
You draw because it makes you feel alive.